Miscellaneous minds, never explaining the minds. Devilish grin for my alias, aliens who respond. Peddling sin, thinking maybe when you get old you realize I'm not gonna fold or demise. I don't smoke crack, motherfucker, I sell it.
What is going on, everybody? This is the Miscellaneous Minds Podcast. I am your co-host, Puma El Gato, that cat that gives you your lady back. And to my right over here is the main man, Jesus De Niro, the man that makes the fat stacks. Together we form the dynamic duo that won't die, deadlier than the Diaz brothers, and spicier content than your girl's OnlyFans. Brother, what is the topic of discussion at hand?
We got a couple things that we're going to be discussing tonight. We'll first touch a little bit on the upcoming fight between Peña and Nunes. We're going to talk a little bit about hustle culture. We're going to dabble a little bit into the BMW subscription model with the heating pads and whatnot, and then we're going to go into our final topic about conservative hypocrisy and Democrats being a bunch of pussies. With that being said, before we jump into the topic of the UFC and the predictions that we're going to have for Nunes Peña, we do want to give a little bit of a shout out to Paddy Pimblett. My man, just a couple days ago, won his fight in London. Apparently one of his friends, longtime friends, had committed suicide hours before the fight. He was kind of talking about, what it meant to him and such. The number one point is we want to, give a little shout out to him because he did discuss the fact that men's mental health is kind of overlooked. He said, I'd rather you come talk to me than, take your own life, which I think is something that's overlooked as far as men's mental health. So we do want to give a little bit of a shout out to him, and we'll kind of get rolling into our topic now that we've given him a shout out. Anything you want to say on that?
It is a little jarring to hear that, especially from such a manly sport such as the UFC, and as macho-oriented as the UFC is, and really any combat sport is in general, it is somewhat jarring, but it's refreshing to see somebody talk about mental awareness, especially after who's the Scottish dude that's hanging out with Kamza, or Irish? Darren Till. He openly admitted that every time before he performs for a fight, he damn near starts calling his mama. He starts getting scared, and I'm like, some people would see that as emasculating, and I actually think it's a little brave that he actually openly admitted to that. Look, I can understand performance anxiety. Some people would see it as emasculating or coward. It was he still goes out there. Granted, he's not the greatest fighter, but at least he can admit, look, I get fucking scared of shit before a fight. So I think it's actually kind of manly that he mans up to it. Even though he says, look, I suffer from performance anxiety, I still go out there.
Yeah, it's definitely something honorable to look forward to. Whenever I see him, I actually didn't know that about him until right now. So shout out to Darren Till as well. He's a man that's mastering his fears and still getting out there. All right, with that being said, let's go on to this particular topic. Peña versus Nunes. I'll be honest with you, my personal opinion on this, I do think Nunes is gonna take it. I think, I know that I've said it before, but I think Nunes just had a really bad night. Peña had a really good night. Don't get me wrong, I don't have a particular dog in the fight in this scenario. I think that they're both pretty deserving of a dub. I think that they both bring a lot to the table. I think they're both really good fighters. I think Nunes is just a little bit better, so my personal prediction is I think she's gonna win. Again, I think last time that they came together, I think Nunes just had a really bad night. I think Peña had a really good night. So it all kind of culminated in Peña taking the win. What do you think, my man?
Nothing really different on your opinion. Again, I only kind of have a little bit of a dog in the race in Peña, just because, again, I kind of hope she does shake up the division, but again, I'm not really going to be surprised if it turns out to be an L in her favor. But again, shouts out to her for even winning it in the first place, whether it was bad circumstances on Nunes' end, or just good circumstances on Peña's end, or just a culmination of both working together. It was the fact that she even got the title in the first place off of Nunes after a very successful 2-year campaign with both of the belts. That is nothing to shake. It could have been lucky, could have been she was just that good that night. It's still nothing to shake. Do I think a shake-up is going to happen? Not really. It's still kind of 50-50 so far. But we'll see once fight night comes up.
You actually bring up a good point. As we discussed on the previous podcast, the UFC is facing this problem where a lot of their weight divisions are being dominated by one particular individual. So you bring up a good point in saying that if Peña does win again, it is going to shake up the division. Nunes isn't going to be looked at as undefeatable anymore. A lot of people think, much like myself, I've read a lot of different comments and I've read a lot of different points of view in relation to Peña winning. A lot of people do think, she got lucky that she got, the perfect scenario for her to win. So a lot of people do think that Nunez is going to take the title, much like I do. But yeah, you know, if Pena does win, it would be a good shake up the division.
And keep in mind, this is not a hating Nunes opinion. I actually like Amanda Nunes. I think she actually deserved both titles. I mean, she rightfully earned it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with running a shake up in a division.
That's true. Very good point. Now we're going to talk a little bit about hustle culture. I'm going to let my man here take the lead a little bit because he does have a particular scenario, and then I'll kind of talk a little bit about my opinion on it, and we'll go from there.
So I saw a video, and it was a dude that was working on a oil rig, and he was doing like, you know, a bit of a, don't want to say humble brag. He was outright bragging, and he said a caption on the video that said, if you work less than 100 hours a week, lower your tone when you're talking to me. And I'm like, I had to do the math on this, and I was like, all right, how many hours are in a fucking week for context? And he said, if we take his numbers at his word, he said that he works 100 hours a week. Now, I looked it up, and apparently the hours in a week are 168 hours a week. So think about that. That's 68 hours of free time. But keep in mind, those 68 hours aren't free, because keep in mind, you still have 8 hours of sleep each night. So that's what, 8 times
56.
7 is 56. So 68 minus 56, that's about 12 hours. 12 hours split among 7 days. So 12 hours, what, divided by 7?
12 hours divided by 7.
So yeah, that means rounding up all the numbers, you basically have 2 hours each day to yourself, assuming you don't work weekends. Which, why? Why would you only want 2 hours of free time for yourself every single day? It's fucking insane. Even if we took into the equation that weekends might be off the table for him, which from people working at oil rigs, they said they have maybe two months off the rig, and the rest of the year they have to work on it because they basically live there at this point. Which it seems more like a plausible reaction. But putting the numbers into the equation here, because you said it was 14 hours a day that he would have to been working if that's the case, if he had weekends off.
Yeah.
So what? He had 10 hours. It still rounds out to 2 hours a day that he has to himself. Yep. Think about it. You barely have time to shit, you barely have time to eat, you barely have time to shower, you barely have time for groceries, you don't even have time to make love to your partner. So why is this dude out here bragging that he is working 100 hours a week? 100 hours a week doesn't net you fucking anything. That's barely one Breaking Bad episode. That's barely, what, one game on Warzone? One game on Apex? Maybe 2 or 3?
Something like that, yeah. I mean, look, this idea that you have to go all, give your all to a company that, let's be quite frank, they'd replace you in a second. If that man got injured, which it's how you like in that particular profession, they'd replace him the next day if they could. They'd replace him, within a fucking couple hours if they could, because the bottom line is all that matters to big companies. It's one of those scenarios where you don't kill yourself for a company that wouldn't kill themselves for you. A lot of us don't have the luck of being, of working for companies that actually truly give a shit. And unfortunately, this whole idea of I have to work 100 plus hours or I'm not considered a hard worker is insane. I'll actually put myself out a little bit on this as an example. There was a point in my time where I had 3 different jobs, and I was thinking, I'm a fucking hard worker, I'm the shit. I was trying to prove to everybody that I was Mr. Bad. And then someone had said to me, yeah, my man, but who cares? Like, the point is to work less and make more, not more and make less. So, it kind of hit me. I was like, fuck, man. Here I was thinking, more time, more money, blah, blah, blah. That's not necessarily the right way to look at it. Again, this whole hustle culture of I must work constantly to make myself a good living, it's okay in theory, but at the same time, it's like, yo, what about experiencing life, man? What about taking time to be with your partner, taking time to be with your kids, taking time to do, shit that you enjoy? So, yeah, man, I agree with you. It's a little bit of a fucked up scenario.
And it's not just a time thing, it's like it takes away at your health. There were people in the comment section of that very video, and they were talking about, yeah, I remember being like him, and I used to work in an oil rig. I had a double heart attack at fucking 26. Why, at that point, why risk your health for that? If he's having this attitude, it was like, oh, don't talk to me if you don't work 100 hours a week. All right, homeboy, but I feel like if I even raise 1 decibel of a tone, I feel like you're going to have a fucking aneurysm at that point. Yeah. Working 100 hours a week. Those sound like fucking slave hours. Those sound like that sounds like some your name is Toby hours. That sounds like, Master, can I please have some lunch break hours? Homeboy's out here bragging to be on the fucking plantations.
Yeah, and some people unfortunately won't get out of that type of mindset. They think, if I'm working for this company for X amount of hours, so on and so forth, I'll be able to, do good for myself. And that's not necessarily the case. I actually had a different job apart from the one that I was just talking, the 3 jobs that I was just talking about, where it was a sales job, so they gave you incentive, obviously, the more that you sold. At a certain point, the way that their matrix worked was the more hours you worked, they'd give you an additional bonus, times the bonus you'd get for sales, times there was a whole bunch of different shit. But basically, they were trying to push you for more and more hours. And at the beginning, it wasn't that bad. At the beginning, it was about 50 hours. I'm like, all right, cool, whatever, 10 above the norm, no big deal. Then they pushed for 55, then 60, then the point where it got to 65, I'll be honest with you, that's when I personally am like, you know what, I might have to leave this place. Not so much for me because I didn't want to do the time because I was making a fantastic paycheck there, but it was more because at that time I was going to school and it wasn't worth it to me, trading off, all my extra time for a job that, again, as soon as I left, they replaced me. So I understand the theory, I understand the concept, but I feel like people are just applying it in the really wrong way. You should have time to work on your own goals, your own shit. That way you don't have to depend on these companies that, again, they'll replace you tomorrow.
You think it's ingrained among men for?
I think mostly men. Yeah, I think it's mostly ingrained in men that you must work these insane hours because you need to provide a good life to your family, which is getting harder and harder for everybody given a lot of different factors, corporate greed, economic factors, recession, COVID, so on and so forth. So I do think it's mostly ingrained in men, and it's stupid of us because we're basically killing ourselves. I don't remember the particular study, but there was a study that said that men were eight times more likely to die at their desk than women, mostly because we're at the desk a lot longer than women are, generally speaking. So there's things like that I think that individual that was making that brag, they don't think about. It's like, yeah, my man, it's cool. You're working 100 plus hours. I'm sure you're making a decent paycheck, but who gives a shit if you're gonna die 10, 15 years earlier? I mean, it's kind of a stupid argument. But again, they don't take that into consideration. They see the fat check. They see that they're making some decent money, and I'm sure the time that he's off the rig, I'm sure he's having a good time and blah blah blah. But again, it comes at a big price in my eyes. Anything else you gotta say on that topic, my man?
Nah, I pretty much let all my frustrations out at that video. That video just pissed me off. I was like, lower your tone, you're talking to me. I was like, all right, homeboy.
Alright, let's talk about what BMW is doing as far as their heated seats and the subscription that you apparently now must buy. So here's the thing with that. If you're part of the gaming community, you know what a microtransaction is. A microtransaction is basically you pay for the game, right? Pay 60, 65 bucks, whatever the game costs. And then in the game, they nickel and dime you for little things here and there. And it might just be like $1, it might be 59 cents, whatever. And then with the slightly bigger items, it'll be $5 and $10 and so on and so forth. This has been going around for a while as part of the gaming community. EA is notorious for it. They do it on damn near every game, which I'm not lying. I'm a fan of a lot of the games that EA is part of, which kind of sucks. But I understand the theory. Now, it's already bad enough, but here's the thing: you can choose not to play a video game, right? You don't have to pick up a control. You don't have to get on your computer. They're now starting to slowly apply that to life, and that's what's starting to get fucking annoying to me. To think that the car, right, the BMW, apparently it comes with the parts to heat your seat up, to get you all nice and comfy. But in order to access it, you must pay them $18 a month. That is a little horseshit. You're telling me it's already in there, so you're charging me for the parts, right? Because I guarantee you they're charging you for the parts. But in order to actually use the parts that they're charging you for, you gotta pay them $18 a month. It's ridiculous. And here's the thing: $18 isn't a lot. It ain't shit. I get that. The point is like microtransactions are slowly slipping into your everyday life. I'll give you guys a really good example. To those of you guys that are a fan of Black Mirror, I don't remember the episode, but there's an episode of Black Mirror where this individual, he's working, he's jumping on his little cycle, and he's doing his thing every day. He's logging in a certain amount of hours, and then when he goes home, he has to pay a certain amount of credits to watch certain things. He has to pay a certain amount of credits for his alarm, a certain amount of credits for the little snack bar that he eats in the morning, his little breakfast. Like, he has to pay these little credits throughout the day. It's not like he pays for like a bunch of groceries and then he can cook whatever, blah. No, he pays for each individual meal, each individual show, all that shit. And they're slowly starting to phase that into our lives. These microtransactions are getting fucking insane, and I feel like this is the first step into that episode becoming a reality. It's fucking ridiculous.
I mean, you could say like that, like writers, like small writers, like there's refrigerators that have like fucking touchscreens on it. And I was like, oh, your refrigerator is now connected to Wi-Fi, or even toasters are fucking like needing apps to operate. I was like, why? It's legit just we deadass have a toaster that costs us like $10. It works just fine. All it is turn the lever down and that's it. Your bread just cooked. Why the fuck do I need an app for that? In that case, it's just making all the very simplistic shit more expensive, and I don't know. You're adding functions to something that doesn't need functions to begin with.
It doesn't need additional functions. It's pretty simple as it is. You know, I feel like this is an argument that our parents probably made as far as a lot of stuff that we use, but you know, that's a topic for a different day. With that being said, that's just one example. Again, you know, as part of the gaming community, we've been facing this microtransaction shit for a long time. It kind of seems like, again, if this is successful, and unfortunately, I think it's gonna be, because people will throw money away on some really stupid fucking shit. Unfortunately, I have to include myself in that category. So, if this is successful, which unfortunately it might be, I feel like, you know, down the line there's gonna be something else. Down the line, there's gonna be one other thing that they're gonna start slowly giving you a piece of. You know, I remember seeing a really good analogy as part of the game is where, you know, back in the day you used to get the full masterpiece, right? You used to get, you know, the full artwork, so to speak. And now they're selling you almost the whole artwork, but they're taking out a couple chunks that you're slowly buying throughout. So you're paying the whole initial price, and then slowly they're like, oh, do you want another piece of the puzzle? $5.99, please. Do you want a third piece of the puzzle? $6.99, please. So I think it's funny because imagine them selling you, you know, the Mona Lisa, and it's 75% done, and then slowly they're like, do you want another corner? And that'll be $100. And it's pretty ridiculous that it's actually coming into our lives now. Like, again, it's one thing for you to choose to play a video game or choose to get online, but now they're including it in cars. I mean, and let's be honest, BMW might be the first, but they're not going to be the last. All these other corporations are going to slowly, if they see one company doing it and taking the leap, guarantee you that they're going to fucking start doing it. So, unfortunately, this is another one of those ridiculous things that it's looking like it's going to start slowly creeping into our lives. Hopefully, we don't got to deal with it, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not super
excited for it.
Yeah, I'm not super looking forward to that particular type of future, but it is what it is. Now let's move on to our main topic. Conservative hypocrisy and Democrats, liberals are a bunch of fucking pussies. Let me explain what I mean by this particular topic. Conservatives are overturning, or at least trying to overturn, a lot of things that for now have been commonplace in our society. For example, you guys all know about Roe v. Wade being turned over. We talked about it on our first episode. Go back and watch that as well. What led to that being overturned was a memo that came out in which Supreme Court Justice Thomas was talking about, well, now that we've done this one, let's do all these other ones. One of the other ones being gay marriage. Ted Cruz recently came out, and apparently Marco Rubio as well, basically stating that they are for looking at specifically the decision on gay marriage to see if that could be overturned. And it's a funny concept because, you know, they claimed all these what we would deem logical reasons, right? But they're like, oh, our base isn't for the logic concept of it, so to speak. They're more for the religious concept. And here's the thing: if you want to be religious, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But be honest about why you're changing it. Don't say it's for all these logical reasons, when in reality it's for your conservative base. You know, again, first they said, well, you know, it's just going to be solely for abortion. You know, we're pro-life. You don't have to worry about us coming after anything else. And again, you know, now obviously they're having success in that area. As of today, in fact, they recently, all but 8 of the House Republicans voted against contraceptives, meaning they had the day after pill, meaning condoms, meaning IUDs, meaning all that shit. They voted no, as in no, it shouldn't. You shouldn't have the right to access these items. So what happened to it just being just about pro-life, just about simple abortion, because it was torturing, in their eyes, a child, torturing this individual that they believe was human. Now we're coming after the literal seed and the little egg inside people's bodies. It seems like it's a lot more than just a pro-life thing. What do you think about that, my man?
Well, again, I think I might have brought this up on the last one, in the fact that they said, "Oh, okay, we're just going to allow only states' rights for their jurisdiction on this. We're turning this over to the states. If they think that you have a right to abortion, that's for them to decide. That's not for
The federal government.
The federal government to do. But Ted Cruz went on a podcast and says, no, nationwide, we should probably do it nationwide. We should overrule it. And I was like, so what happened to states' rights then, homeboy? I thought that's what you're all about. Now all of a sudden, you're not okay with states' rights if it infringes on your views.
Yeah, it's funny because see, that's, I remember watching a show, and in the show, this guy that had gone to war said, you don't take a country over all at once. You take it step by step. You take just a small portion of it. You get a foothold in, and once you got a foothold, then you move to the next part, and then the next part, and then the next part. And that's what they're doing here. They took a dub. Conservatives took a dub on overturning Roe v. Wade. Now they're moving on to all the other ones. Again, contraceptives. It's fucking ridiculous that I may not be able to go buy condoms to protect myself, because again, condoms don't just protect against pregnancy, they protect against disease, they protect against a myriad of things. So it's literally they're willing to sacrifice the whole for one tiny part of ideology. And here's the fucked up thing, most people believe you should have the right to these things. It's not like only liberals, it's a liberal against conservative issue. Generally speaking, 75% of the country believes that you should have access to these items, contraceptives, condoms, IUDs, the morning after pill, all that. Birth control, it's not a one-side issue. The problem is that these people get divided so much on these particular issues that it becomes you must be on this side or you must be on that side, and that's it. There's no room for the people in the middle like ourselves. Like, I personally believe that I should have right to have contraceptives. At the same time, I believe I should have access to a myriad of guns. That's just my personal belief. With that being said, that's just one way in which the conservatives are being hypocritical. They say it's about one thing, it's really not about that one thing, and it's about another. Another thing that they do, and this has happened an insane amount of times. It's actually ridiculous, the fact that they continue this argument, because it continues to happen over and over again. Many Republicans have been caught. And I'm not talking about the everyday individual. I'm talking about people in Congress. I'm talking about people in the Senate have been caught where they were themselves having an affair with another individual, even though they claim to be all about families and they claim to be religious and, holier than thou and all that other shit. They were caught with mistresses who ended up getting pregnant, and you know what? They were having their mistresses get abortions. It's fucking insane that the hypocrisy of these motherfuckers, because it's a rules for thee, not for me type of scenario. They want you to live under certain rules, but they don't want to live under those certain rules, because guess what? Those rules are fucking oppressive. With that being said, there's a second side to this coin, and there's a reason why it's happening. It's because the Democrats are a bunch of fucking pussies. Listen here. If you're telling the other party, okay, you guys aren't playing by the rules, other party, but I'm going to continue to play by the rules, and every time that they step outside the bounds, but say, hey, out of bounds, what can you do? If you're not willing to put certain discussions on the table, getting rid of the filibuster, potentially expanding the court, all of these additional things, codifying the different laws that have already been in place. If you're not willing to have these discussions, what the fuck are you even fucking doing? And it's not, again, these are issues that you have the public support on it. All you need to do is grab your fucking nutsack, get the fuck up, and fucking do these goddamn things. Here's the thing, let's be honest. Realistically, there's a big chance that Biden's not going to run for a second term. The motherfucker is old as dirt. He doesn't look like he's out there a lot of times. It looks like he's probably not going to run for a second term. He's saying he's going to, but let's be honest, he's probably saying that way the Democrats have a little bit of a time to get their shit together to see if he doesn't run, who is going to run. With that being said, my man, if you're not running, again, there is literally no consequences for doing these things. You could literally do whatever the fuck you want. Executive order after fucking executive order. You can expand the fucking court, talk about expanding the court, work on all that shit, and there's literally nothing that the other side can do about it. Because again, what's the worst they're gonna do? You're not running anymore. Stop being so fucking pussified. Stop being such a goddamn pussy and get some shit done. See, that's the problem why people like Biden, why people like Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, that's why they're losing support. Is because they're not doing a goddamn thing, even though they have options. Don't get me wrong. For this time, they'd be considered somewhat radical options, even though the Supreme Court has been expanded a multitude of times. Go look it up. This wouldn't be anything new. It's ridiculous that you have options. And yeah, again, it's options that are generally outside the bounds, but the other party's already playing out of bounds anyway. Why shouldn't you? Why aren't you going to take a goddamn 3 if you're out of bounds? If they took a fucking shot at 3 when they're out of fucking bounds, just fucking do it. What are your thoughts, my man?
I think as far as the Republican thing that bothers me the most is that it's always been poised as moral grandstanding on stuff that was like, oh yeah, we'll work for you guys should be respected. And once they do that, I'm like, we're not giving you guys any money. famous example is everything pertaining to the military. It's been happening since the 70s with Vietnam, with the Korean War, like before that, and even I think as far as like World War II. But granted, medical knowledge wasn't that great back then, even with psychological stuff like that. But for the most part, they didn't really give a fuck about veterans coming back from the war and helping their efforts. That's basically what First Blood was about. The first Rambo movie, the whole conflict started because Rambo and his people, his entire platoon, wasn't getting support. They made an entire movie based off of that. That shows that that was big enough an issue back then as it is now. Even when was it? 2018 when Jon Stewart was going in front of Congress and telling them like, look, first responders that helped out on the 9/11
crash site,
the crash site of the 9/11 at Ground Zero. Those first responders didn't get medical assistance for like years, and they have chronic issues to this day. And he's been campaigning for them over and over and over again, and it didn't take until like 2018, 2019, damn near
20 years later.
20 years after the fact, for them to be like, all right, you guys should probably get medical attention. It's like, motherfucker, you didn't think back then?
And see, that's another. He brings up a good point as far as, especially in my personal belief, conservative hypocrisy. So conservatives are always like about the military, about this, and that's awesome. That's great. That's fantastic. Here's the problem: all that money, all the our bloated military budget that people constantly talk about, it's mostly going to the people that manufacture these things. It's not going to the people on the fucking ground. It's not going to the people that are actually putting their lives at fucking risk. It's going to the fucking manufacturing companies. And here's the thing: I get to a certain degree it has to, because we want the best bombs. We want the smartest bombs. We want all the dope shit that every other country doesn't have. We want that, and I fully agree with that. We should definitely fund that shit. But with that being said, you also need to take care of our vets. They're putting their fucking lives on the line so that you and me can fucking sit here and just bullshit about what we got going on so we can live our everyday lives. So yes, I agree. Give the manufacturers their money because we need the best shit, we need the best bombs, we need the best so on and so forth. But you also need to take care of the motherfucking vets, and then that's not been happening for a long time. I've had a lot of people that I've had around me, fathers of women that I've dated, personal friends of mine that have all gone to different wars throughout history, and they all say the same thing, that the government doesn't take care of you. They sell you all this BS, and they tell you all these benefits and blah blah blah, but in the end you really don't get anywhere near what you're envisioned to be promised. It's if you do X, we'll give you Y. And then when it's time to come collect Y, you're like, oh yeah, you can collect Y, but if you stay in a little bit longer, we'll give you Z. And it becomes ridiculous. With that being said, again, the Democrats are just as fucking guilty as the Republicans on this, because again, inaction is just as bad as the shit that they're taking action on. The fact that, again, you have all of these fucking options, but you're gonna be a fucking pussy about it for what? A lot of you motherfuckers are gonna be dead in the next fucking 10 years. They're fucking all old as fuck. It's funny that a lot of people that are elderly are considered unemployable, but these geriatric fucks are exclusively running our fucking country and pushing us down these avenues that they're not gonna have to see the fucking results to, and we're just expected to be like, okay, cool, whatever, it is what it is. And see, that's the problem. It's specifically if you're gonna get in fucking Congress, do some shit. If you're gonna, if you have the smallest bit of power and they need your fucking voice, as people in Congress, hold that shit, do that shit, use your fucking power, because you motherfuckers ain't doing shit. Women have already lost their right to an abortion. It's looking like, because again, it's becoming more and more of a focal point, more and more of a talking point right now. It's looking like legal gay marriage is about to be next. It's looking like they might lose their rights. And here's the thing. It's been the same throughout history. First they came for them, then they came for them, then they came for me. And all throughout that time, nobody said anything because, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't affect you until it's your time. But here's the thing. You could have said something because eventually it is going to trickle down to you. So stop being such pussies, Democrats. Do some shit. Here's the thing. I'll give you a really good example. Manchin. Apparently Manchin's daughter was caught up in some sort of a scheme with pharmaceutical companies where she was basically trying to push more and more pills out into the general public. And apparently some of what she done could be viewed as illegal. Why doesn't fucking Biden use the goddamn stick that he should use instead of the fucking carrot that he always uses, and says, look, either you fucking play ball or your daughter might be investigated by my Justice Department. I may make a recommendation. for her to be investigated. There's so many tools that these dudes have that they can play, but they choose not to because, again, stop being such a pussy. You're really gonna let Manchin of all people, fucking tell you the president what to fucking do? It's fucking ridiculous. Manchin's a fucking nobody. Why are you gonna let people like that? And then Kristen Sinema, look, here, when Kristen Sinema was running here in Arizona, we're in Arizona, I said, you know what? I'd much rather have her than a lot of the other Republicans who are going on. I know.
Martha McSally was a fucking basically Trump light.
Yeah. So I'd much rather have a Sinema than a Martha McSally. And again, I know that Sinema's a Democrat, but I'd much rather have her than a Martha McSally. With that being said, she's a big piece of shit too. She ain't doing shit. She ain't helping. So look, I know that, especially for anybody watching this, I know that we've been told a lot. You have to get out there, you have to vote, you have to get out there, and then we vote for these people, and then they don't fucking do shit. What we really need to fucking start doing is running our own candidates. We need to start vetting our own people, not these people that have been basically either in government or basically right around government for fucking ever. And start running these motherfuckers, because these people, they don't give a shit about nothing. Again, let's say, I don't know if Kristen Sinema's gonna run again. I don't know. Part of me says yes, part of me says no. She's ridiculously unpopular now. With that being said, even if she doesn't run, she's already made a ridiculous amount of money from just one term in office. So really, she won. Even if she didn't do shit this entire time, she won. We have to make this about getting these fucking idiots. And if we're being honest, it's the people that have been in Congress for 20, 30, 40 years. It's the people that have been in there, the establishment people, the establishment Republicans and the establishment Democrats that are the ones that are ruining everything for the rest of us. And don't get me wrong, I know this is gonna kind of shoot me in the foot a little bit. I know that, like, for example, Trump is not an establishment person. He wasn't in there for 20, 30 years, and he's, in my opinion, not the brightest bulb. But with that being said, don't use him as an example. There's other individuals that have not been in the establishment, and it would be great to fucking run. But you know, we gotta get him in there. We gotta support. And sometimes it sucks because it feels more and more like we can't do shit. But again, the conservatives are clearly being hypocrites about a lot of things, about abortion, about gay marriage, about gun rights. Look, just the gun rights thing. How is it they're gonna say we need less doors, we need less ladders, we need everything except the motherfucking problem? And here's the thing, and I'm for guns. I think every one of you should have a goddamn gun in your home, at least one. I think you should protect your family as much as you possibly can, and sometimes that means pulling the trigger. I'm not anti-gun, but with that being said, look, listen, I know that there's certain things, basic, real small things, that shouldn't be an issue to you or me. Because here's the thing, if they say, hey, you gotta pass a background check, you gotta wait 3 or 4 days for that shit to come back, and then we'll sell your gun. Cool, I don't need my gun today. I don't need my gun this instant. And that's the problem with a lot of Americans. Americans are used to, like that. You want food? Uber Eats. Get that bitch delivered to you. You want a show? You want a movie? Download it right now. Shit, they'll stream it right to you. You want fucking Amazon? You want fucking a 34 pack of Oreos for whatever the fuck reason? Oh, you'll have it in 2 days. So I get it that as Americans we are so used to instant gratification. But listen, this is a problem where what the hell is 3 or 4 days, man? What does 3 or 4 days do to you? And then you get to get your toy. It's completely legal, and then that could potentially stop some of these fucking idiots from getting these guns. And I know what a lot of you will say. Oh, you know, but criminals don't follow. I agree with you. But if we can even take 1% of the people that can get guns that are going to hurt us away, dope. Especially, it doesn't cost us anything. There's so many topics in which the Republicans they give a point and then they contradict themselves on the point. Again, it's one of those scenarios of rules for thee and not for me. And the problem is the Democrats are supposed to hold them accountable, and they're fucking not. They're fucking pussies. What are your thoughts, my man?
I think the ultimate example actually comes from like way early on, where it actually shows a perfect dichotomy between Republicans and Democrats and what they were doing. And it all had to do with the Watergate scandal and basically the aftermath of that. Nixon wasn't the whole thing with Nixon. He was trying to get info on his political opponents, basically Democrats, which again is illegal. You're not supposed to do that.
It's the way that he did it that was illegal.
Yeah, well, it was wiretapping, wasn't it?
Yep, wiretapping.
Okay, wiretapping. So, would you say that's treasonous, or would you say it's just very...
I don't think it's treasonous. It's just a scumbag thing to do. And he not just that, he had a bunch of his... we'll call them cronies, break into the Democratic headquarters, steal a bunch of stuff. It was a number of things. But overall, I mean,
it was still very highly immoral.
yeah.
But anyways, that all happened, and admitted no guilt, didn't want to be held accountable for it. And Gerald Ford, which historically you can see he was like a proto Joe Biden.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically went out and pardoned him. And I looked up his reasoning as to why he pardoned him. And he says, look, a presidential pardon, yes, admits them of any punishment of the crime, but it also does basically acts as an admission of guilt, which means he's basically saying that he did it. But my thing is, okay, so we know he did it, but he's not getting punished for it, which is my thing.
Imagine you fucking get accused of murder, and by simply admitting you did it, you're like, okay, in that case, you're free to go.
Historically, I can see why, because like there was half of the people saying, oh, it wasn't that big a deal, or the other side was like, no, it was a huge deal. Again, it was illegal. There's nothing we can really debate about that. It was illegal by all standards. But the fact that he didn't, that he walked away after all that, it doesn't sit right with me.
I agree with that. And here's the thing: Democrats for a long time have been pussies. They don't use the bully pulpit. They don't man the fuck up. The buck doesn't stop with them. They roll over and they fucking take it. And the fucked up thing is, like, look, again, I'm not against all conservative positions. I'm not against all liberal positions. On a lot of this stuff, I usually like to meet down the middle. And don't get me wrong, by no means am I a centrist. A lot of the positions that I guess I would take are generally left of center and right of center. But with that being said, I'm not for one side having complete power and the other side having basically none. And that's what's happening. A lot of people say that the Democrats are in power, they have the House, they have the Senate, so yeah, but they really don't. Who gives a fuck if they pass a motherfucking, law in the House and then it's gonna go over to the Senate, and the Senate's like, yeah, we're not doing that. What the hell's the point? Who gives a shit? It's like when the Democrats are doing this, especially recently, it's literally just for show. It's literally just say, look, we're trying. And here's the thing: you don't get points for trying. You have to pass shit. You want people to keep going for it. You gotta do shit. There's way too many things. I'll give you a really good example of really all of Congress being hypocrites and all of them being pussies, including the ones that could do something about it but don't. Apparently Nancy Pelosi's husband recently, right before a rise in stock price, bought a particular stock, and wouldn't you know it, he bought it, and then within a day or so later, if you're out there, bam, it went shooting up. I wonder how that happens, because it's happened more than once. And again, if we were to do that, if I was to deal with, let's just call it what it is, insider trading, I would go to fucking jail. Martha Stewart went to jail for it. But yet these motherfuckers that make the motherfucking law, they have advanced knowledge on what's going to happen, whether regulations are going to go in place, which generally brings down the stock price down, or whether regulations are going to be lifted, which generally make them go up. These motherfuckers that have this advanced knowledge, somehow they always seem to be right there at the perfect moment to buy right before or sell right before, whatever would be advantageous towards them. They're all a bunch of fucking hypocrites. Look, I'm no anti-government person. I think the government needs to be there. I think government has the potential to do a lot of good shit for its people. The military is part of our fucking government, and we need the goddamn military. There's a lot of shit that a government can do to better its nation. I feel like the individuals that we have now have become too self-absorbed. It's too much about them. They're all a bunch of hypocrites. They're all a bunch of fucking pussies. They know what they need to do, but they don't do it because taking a stance outside of what you're supposed to take a stance on, whether you're a conservative and you may agree with a liberal bill, but nope, you can't do that because otherwise you'll be labeled a rhino. Or whether you're a fucking Democrat and you see, like, look, to blame an inanimate object, if this was a gun, to blame this and saying this is killing everybody, it's really fucking not. It's unpopular on both sides, and we need to start coming back to reality. We need to start coming back to the truth about shit. There's a certain set of facts that are the absolute truth, and that's what we need to focus on, not what the hypocritical right does or the pussified left does. I'll give you some final thoughts on that.
No.
No, we're good to go. All right. With that being said, that's my personal rant on this situation. Look, the conservatives are a bunch of hypocrites. They're coming after all the shit that they said they wouldn't come after. All the things that they said were settled decisions, and the Democrats are too pussy to do anything about it. So it's a lot of bullshit on both sides. Listen, if we want to get this shit straightened out, we need to straighten these motherfuckers out. We need to vote them the fuck out. Do your fucking part. Get some actual people in there. Look, if we gotta fucking impeach these motherfuckers, whatever the fuck we gotta do, we gotta do it. No violence though. Don't advocate for violence. That being said, thank you for tuning in. We're gonna have a couple of really interesting shows coming up. I actually just did one with the guests that we'll be having on later this week. We also have a couple of big topics that both my co-host and I are looking forward to in the future. That we're definitely amped up to discuss. We'll be probably having a couple more guests on to discuss that. Hopefully, if not, we'll be looking to get some guests outside. I'm going to give you some studies that I personally took part in to relay those subjects at that time. But yeah, a lot of huge stuff to look forward to. A lot of big topics that we got coming at you, and I guarantee you, it's just going to keep getting better and better.
Until next time, get rest and stay blessed. We'll see you on the next one.
Bam. 42 minutes.
All right.